Good morning. I think today's daf is Kuvzayin. It's another easy daf as we close in on the end of the Masechta. Okay, I think that we're starting on Friday. That wasn't the question we made. Are we finished on Friday? Oh no, I'm only basing it on the advertisements from MDY. He's been advertising for Friday, so I don't know. Okay, so let's see the Heilige Gemara. We are on, I believe, daf Kuvzayin. And we're at the first set of two dots, about 3 lines from the top. Harei alai zov. The Mishnah says, if someone accepts upon himself zov without specifying the amount, lo yivchos midiner zov. He has to give at least a dinner. Frag the Gemara, who said he means that much? Vidil menaska. Maybe he just means a small nugget. Amar Belazar, the Amar Matbeya, he didn't say Arei Alai Zov. He said Arei Alai Matbeya Zov, and the smallest Matbeya of Zov is going to be a dinner, which is 25 sloim. Vidilma Priti, maybe he means a pruta of Zov, which is a much smaller amount. Amar Papa Priti did the Havaloi Avdi Inchi. They don't make prutas. It's not a common coin, or it's not a coin at all that's made. So the smallest coin in circulation is the dinar. Kesef, there just lo yifchos mi dinar. There he has to give a dinar kesef. In fact, Gemara v'dilmanascha. Once again, who said it means a full coin? Maybe it just means a small nugget. Amar Belazar, the Amar Matbeya. Once again, he was mechayiv himself a matbeya of kesef. And the smallest normal matbay of kesef is going to be a dinar kesef. Frank Gemara v'dilma pretty. Maybe he just means a prut of kesef, which is a tiny little amount. A mabsheshes ba'asra the loisagu pretty bekaspa. So basically, by the zov, there is no such small denomination. By kesef, there might be some, but this town is talking about a city where they didn't have those. So he was saying what the law would be in his place. Nechoshes lo yifchos mima kasef. Tanya Belazar Nakav Eimer lo yifchos mitzinoira kitana shal nechoshes. The amount of copper to make a small copper fork. Why a small copper fork? L'maychos. What possible use can there be for a small copper fork in the Beis Hamikdash? Zok the Gemara Amar Bai shemechatet ba psilos umekancha bazneis. It's a perfect tool with which to prepare to clean out the neiros from the old burnt wicks. That's what it would be good for, and to clean out the neiros. Weitergegangen, Barzel. Now, our mission doesn't talk about if someone donates steel, but what if someone donates steel? So Tanya, we learned, Acherim Ba'imrim. There are those who say, Acherim says, let me see what the Bach says by the base. Acherim Ba'imrim ha'omer alai barzel loy yivchos, he shouldn't give less than Kaliyas Oirev. A Kaliyas Oirev was what they used to put on the roof of the Beis Hamikdash. It was a flat copper plate with spikes coming out of it. It was designed so that no birds should rest on the top of the Beis Hamikdash. It wouldn't look appropriate. The Chama, how much of Kliya Erev are we talking about? Amar Yosef, Amma al Amma. An Amma by an Amma of Barzel is the minimal amount to make something that's useful in the Beis Hamikdash, which would be this Kali Erev, this set of spikes. Ikadamri, there are those who hold that it's the same thing but expressed in a different way. Lo yivchos me Amma al Amma. Lamai chazi, what is it useful for? Amar Yosef the Kali Erev. So there's actually a very interesting Tosfos here at about Kali Erev. And he asks, Pirish Bekontris, Mismara is chadin, it's sharp nails, Tusvin, or Teuchvin, Bereish Gag HaHechel, they would put on the top of the Hechel, L'chaloi Sa'arvin, Shalo Yeshvolo. So the raven shouldn't sit on top of the Hechel. And then a coin could be walking by and he can go splops, right? I can already see the MDY video about it. If a makamacha appears, but in a different place, Rashi was mafarish. Kamin tabla chada zekufa al tzida. It's like some type of um, tablet of steel standing on its side, v'chaduda, and it's sharp, and they wouldn't. It wasn't a kalya, but it was used for lachlich kamoy sakin. It was some type of cutting utensil. Uvarich erich kol pirish sha'asu tsura lavriach ba oifos migag hechel. The erich says that they used it once again to chase away birds, to stop birds from settling there. Kederch shoyz and achshav shoym reizarim like people today who are storing seeds. They don't want the birds to come eat them, so they have something that stops the birds from coming. The karaisa kal yair. The oipirish ba'arach Mikdash Rishon in the first place of Mikdash. Sheshchina Shruyaboy. Where there was a Shechina, there Lohayu Truchin Kliya Erev. They didn't need it because Alpinais, about the Shechina was Shruyaboy. Therefore, the ravens didn't settle on it. Shalahayu Aifa is Parchan Alav. Aval B'Mikdash Sheni, Shalahayu Kedusha, Kedusha's Rishon. It didn't have the same level of Kedusha like the first base of Mikdash. Only there, Hotruchu the Kliya Erev. It's not mashma like that because it says Kabibayis Asher Shloima the Achlu b'Yom Kippurim the Ka'amar Iboy l'Shiyurei b'Binyan Purta u'Mishani Shiyurei Binyan Loy Mishari. So I don't know what the Shaklavataria is in that Gemara exactly, but the Gemara is definitely referring in the first place of Mikdash to the Kli Erev. So it's mashma shahayisham Kli Erev, even the first place of Mikdash. Zaktais is something fascinating. V'shema tchila asa Kli Erev. When they built the base of Mikdash Harishon, and they didn't realize the impact of the Shras Hashchina, they made it clear because they thought that's what would be necessary. But once they saw that no birds came to hang out there, why? Because of the kedusha, they took the kliyariv away because it wasn't necessary. And the second base is when they needed it. I thought there was an interesting discussion, and it's an interesting point to know that the kedusha of the first base of Mikdash made it that birds shouldn't settle there. A. And B is they didn't know what to expect. It's not like they knew that's how it would be. So they first over-designed it, and then they took it away. Zog to Gemara weiter.
Is it just the birds, or like the animals that they brought in? They have to go to the bathroom.
I think they put this on the roof.
No. What about all the animals that are brought in for carbonas? Okay.
And them goes to the bathroom inside the Azar?
Yeah, I mean it's natural, especially after you shafted.
There's a lot of action there.
Right.
And the animal, once they're afraid, they know they're about to get killed, it sometimes causes also.
That's right. So is there any discussion about that?
I've never saw that. I've never saw discussion.
That's a lot more disgusting than a few bird droppings.
In the Gemara, when we learned about Erev Pesach, how the Kohanim were almost up to their knees in blood, it doesn't say what else is mixed in there.
That's
right. When the said you scooped up one cup as a plan B to dump it on the Mizbeach for Shrika, doesn't talk about that. I don't know. That's a good horror. Unless Al Pi Nes that it didn't happen. I mean, taking Beis Hamikdash, it must have happened. It's a good point. I don't know. Maybe that's what the Amma was for.
Let's pick apart.
The Amma, they had a river going through. They had a little brook. They constantly needed something to flush things into.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a good. I wonder how they dealt with that. Good point. Okay, Zog the Gemara weiter. Huh? Huggies. It was a sign of the Beis Hamikdash. Scoop your dog's poop. Zog the Gemara weiter. Where are we up to? Mishnah. Hare alai yayin. What if someone says Hare alai yayin? How much wine must he give? Lo yivchais mishloisha loyim. And Rashi says that's pachut, because the smallest amount of wine, carbon, that you find anywhere are the nesachim, and the smallest amount is uravias ahin, which is 3 loyim. Uravias ahin lakeves yoin. Shemen, what did he give Shemen? Now Rashi tells us right away, can you give Shemen by itself? We had a machlokes before. So Rashi says our Mishnah must be going according to Reb Tarfon, who said on Kuv Daled that you can give Shemen by itself. Remember, we said how to do a kmitza, either you use a keli or you let it gel. So Shemen lo yivchais meloik. It has to be a loik. Why a loik? Because you're going to find by a mincha a loik shemen would be enough, right? We said a standard minchas nadava to loik shemen within the Nisar and Silas. Rabbi Omer, it's shloish loigim. We're going to have to see why. What if someone says pirashti? I actually specified a certain amount of loigin, but I forgot how many I said. Then you ma pirashti yavi kiyay meruba, and we know the day with the most loigin was the first day of Sukkot, which is 61 loigin. Tanu Rabbanan. Ezra, we learned the makar of the fact that you could donate wine by itself. We learned it from the word Ezra. We had it actually also a couple of blot ago. Malamed misnadvin yayin. That's how we know that you could be misnad of yayin by itself. The kama, and what is the shear of yayin? Shloish shaloigin, because that was the smallest matana of yayin that you ever found. Uminayin shimratza lahaisef yosef. How do you know you can add more than the minimum of 3 loigin of wine? You might think you can give less than 3 loigin of wine. Talmud loimer kacha. It has to be done like this. So yayin is pretty clear. It's 3 loigin. The discrepancy is by shemen. So shemen lo yifchais min aloig Rabbi Omer shloisha loigin. The ma'akamivli. What is their machlokes taliyim? Amru Rabbanan Kamei Papa. And before we move on, we need to know how do you know that you could bring oil, a matan of oil by itself? Where do we know it from? So the Gemara is assuming that we know it from mincha. So therefore, Zok the Gemara, it depends on this rule of don mina umina. Vibalt, we're learning about nische oil by itself from the oil that's part of a mincha. So therefore, you look at what the minimum amount of oil by a mincha is. That's 1 like. So therefore, the whole makar of nische shemen by itself is the carbon mincha. So let's look at the carbon mincha itself to also learn how much oil is involved in this matana. Or you can hold don mina v'ukibasra. I learned that I can give a matna shemen by itself from mincha. But once I do that, now let me see, by a mincha, it's not a liquid, it's a mixture. Let's look at other liquids and see what their minimum share is. The other liquid that's most obvious to compare to is yayin. And yayin we just showed was 3 loigin. So that's what the machlok should be. Usually, vibalt, the whole makar of the matna shemen comes from mincha. So the shear of how much shemen needs to be poured should be learned from the mincha as well. Or daimina, or the idea that you could give a matna shemen that you know from mincha. But once you know that, how to apply it, you look at oil locally and you compare it to a similar item like wine. Kamifli. Rabbanan savri daimina umina, that's what it's like. Ma mincha misnadvin av shemen hami misnadvin umina. Ma mincha beloik av shemen beloik. For Rabbi Savar Dain Mina Vuki Basra Ma'amecham Misnadvin Av Shemin Nami Misnadvin, but how much? Vuki Basra Kinesachim, let it be like the Sachim, which are similar. Rashi says the Shemin Abba Fnayatzmai, have a Kinesachim Dom Yad Yain, Man Nesachim Shloshes Logan, Av Shemin Nami Shloshes Logan. Amulur Papa, Imi Mincha Gamerla, if you learn it from Mincha, then if Rabbi learns from Mincha the halacha that you could bring shemen by itself, well then the chula alma loy polik. Everybody would agree dain mina umina. So the svara of the man the Amar who holds you only bring a loy holds dain mina umina, and everybody would hold that way. the Savara of Rebbe who holds you bring 3 loigin, Ela Rebbe me Ezrach Kamerla. Rebbe holds you don't even learn it from Mincha. The whole Makar that you could bring oil by itself, you learn from Ezrach, which is the same word from which we knew the Nesachim. So there's an independent Makar to the fact that you can bring a matana of Shemen by itself that's not Mincha. It's from the parasha of Nesachim. And therefore, it's logical that it should require 3 lagin. You cannot say that. You cannot say that Rebbe, who holds the shear is 3 lagin, holds that the makor of Nisrei Shemen is from the word Ezra. How do I know you can't say that? Tanya, we learned carbon, which is the extra word by the Parshas of Mincha, Malamed Shem is not Vin Shemen, Vikama, Shloshis Loikin. So here you have a Tana who holds that you could give a Matana of Shemen by itself, and he identifies that he knows it from the carbon Mincha, and he also says that it's 3 Loikin. Man Shamas Leidamar Shloshis Loikin. Who is the Tana who holds that when you give a Matana of oil, it's 3 Loikin? It's Rebbe. So this brisa that we just quoted must be Rebbe. Yet the Kamaisa Makarbon, they're not from Ezra. You see that he learns the Makar of a Mat Hashem by itself is from the carbon Mincha. So it must be that the Svara of Rebbe is Doin Minah Bukibasra. Amalei told him back, Nu Itanya Tanya. If you find a brisa like that, then I can't argue with that. I was just think theoretically maybe Rebbe learns it from Ezra, but you've proven to me, in fact, that he learns it from Mincha. Pirashi ve'eni yodeh pirashi yavi kiyem aruba. Tana, what day is that? Kiyam tavrishin shalchak shechol yesh b'Shabbos, as we learned at 61. Zok telik nishtavaiter. Harei alai oila. What if just someone says harei alai oila? You could bring an oila of many different types of karbanis. What type of animal must you bring? Yavi keves. A keves is the least expensive type of carbon oil that one can bring. And the Gemara right away is going to say the machlokes is what costs more. Does a keves cost more, or does a Torah ben cost more? So the Gemara is going to say in the city where the Tanakama lived, the keves cost the least, and the bird was more. And where Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah lived, the Torah or the ben costed less. And that's why that's the one. Peirashti mina bakar. What if I said I know I was mechayiv myself a carbon oila from cattle, but what type of cattle I don't remember what I said. So then yavi par ve'egel. You have to bring a par, a big ox, ve'egel, and the calf, because they both fall under the category of bakar, and you would have meant either one of those two. What about mina behema? It was a broader category. Then yavi par ve'egel, ayil, seir, Gedi and Tla, which are all male, because we're talking about a carbon oila, and the carbon oila can only be brought from a male animal. What about pirashti? Pirashti? I didn't even say behema. I just said an oila. So that also includes Moisef will also have to give Aleim Taru Ben Yoina, because now he could have possibly meant that he could have possibly been mefarish that it was a bird. What about a real like Taida Ushlamim? And they also can be brought from animals that are female. Then Yavi Kevish. She brings a Kevish, which is the least amount, the smallest amount of Toida or Shlam. What about Pirashi Min Bakar? Then you there Ma Pirashi. Then Yavi Par Upara, Egel Vagala. You bring both male and female versions. What about Min Abahema Venidea Ma Pirashi? Then Yavi Par Upara, Egel Vagala, Ail Urechela, Seiru Seira, Gidiu Gidia, Tleu Tlia. It's a good idea to write down what you said, because otherwise it can get to be very expensive. Hare alai shor. What if someone just says Hare alai shor, Laila, right? Hare alai shor. So the halacha is Yavehu unesacha v'mona. That's mechayiv yourself in a mana. That's the standard matana, and that mana doesn't only pay for the shor. The shor will cost less than a mana. That mana is your budget, even to include all of the accessories that you're going to be purchasing with the animal, which is the nesachim. What if someone said egel, plain then Yavihu Nesachav B'chamesh, because an egel, of course, is worth less. But when you say a general thing of a Alai Shar, it's understood that you're including the Nesachim in it as well, in that budget. Ayel Yavihu Nesachav B'shtayim, Keves Yavihu Nesachav B'sela. But what if you said Shar B'maneh, which means the Shar itself is going to be worth Maneh? So then Yavi B'maneh Chutz Min Nesachav. Then, you have to buy a shor that it itself is worth a mana, and over and above that, you're going to have to add nesachim. The same thing, egel v'chamesh.
What about Io and like Kevis? Only.
Right? Because they're generally worth less. So if you say Arei shor, you're accepting upon yourself a greater expense than if you said Arei kevis. Okay, shor b'mana, yavi b'mana. Chutz min nesachav egel b'chamesh yavi b'chamesh chutz min nesachav ayal b'shtayim yavi b'shtayim chutz min nesachav keves b'sela yavi b'sela chutz min nesachav. Okay, I want to show you something very interesting. Rashi says, where does it come from? Yavi hu nesachav ima b'mana. Who made up a mana? Kach nisparish dinoi b'torah shavapeh. It's coming down from Allah Moshe Messinai, Torah Shavapeh, that when someone says Harei Allah Ishar, he means to be mechayev himself with a mana. The total matana is mana. It's like if someone says matana l'bes medrash, if there would be like a flat amount, that means. Shlomi Weintach told me when someone would say matana, they would automatically put on this bill, if he was a Kohen or a Levi who got aliyahs very frequently, they would automatically put $5 on this bill. And if he was a Yisrael, they would automatically put $10 on his bill. Just so they should be able to remember that someone obliged himself to give him a matana. But there was pushback. There's a lot of pushback on it. You can't determine what my amount is. People were very offended. I meant a lot more than that. So because of that, they changed that practice. But at least if someone says Sharei Alai Shar, Torah Shabbat says shar means a mana. What would happen? What would happen if he said shar b'mana, meaning I'm going to buy a shar that's worth a mana. That's how much I'm a chayav myself to spend on the shar itself. The heavy shnayim b'mana, and he brought two that was worth a mana, meaning he brought the total value of mana, but not in one animal. Lo yotza. Meaning he promised $100 and he brought two shvarim that were each worth $99. So he's giving almost double what he obliged himself, but he has to deliver at least one shar that's worth a dinner. What about shachar vevi lavan vevi shachar? Why is there a difference in color between the animal? So Tosfos says that a black ox is better for its meat and a white ox is better for its work. So they have different advantages, and therefore he has to bring what he said he would. Or gadol vevi katan lo yotza, but katan vevi gadol yotza, and Rabbi Omer lo yotza, and that was a discussion we learned about already. There's no machlokes about what you have to bring when you say Arei Alai Oila. If you have to bring a keves or birds, Mark Yasreyu. One mandomer is going bus what was less expensive in this place, and one going bus what's less expensive in his place. That's how Rashi learns. There are others who learn that it was told you what a person would mean when he said those words. In one city, a person meant this, in another city, a person meant that. Tanur Abanim, Harei Alai Oila Bisela Lamizbeach. He said, Harei Alai Oila Bisela Lamizbeach, Yavi Keves. He brings a Keves. Why? She'ein Loch Dover, Shekarav Bisela, Lagaba Mizbeach, Ela Keves. The Karav Bisela is redundant. There are some Neschos that take it out. So if someone said, Harei Alai Bisela Lamizbeach, the understanding is that he means a Keves, because that's the only you could buy for a seller. What if he says pirashti? I was mechayiv myself an oila besela from one of the animals that could be worth a seller. So over here, the fact he said something like that clearly shows us that in his mind, the pool of what he could select from with the value of a seller was a lot more than just one kevis. Because if he just said a seller, we say that's the only possibility is kevis. But if he himself said, I was mefarish a seller, but I don't remember which one, clearly in his mind he could have meant something else. So it's a broader category. What might it mean? Yovi mikol dovar shakar v'selah lagab mizbeach. He would have to bring any item that would be kar v'selah. He has to bring that because maybe that's what he meant. And Rashi says, Rashi eza carbon avi v'kanenu b'selah midanachas lefrushe, since he specified what thing of a seller he picked, that means in his mind there are other things that it could have been. Equals fukanami b'achrini hilchach yovi mikol davar hakarav l'mizbeach, from anything that you would be makav on the mizbeach shava seller mikol echad. From each type he should bring the value of a seller of it. Uvavat yuchal litnois davar shalom misela. So it could be, it means flour, oil. It could mean other things that also would be valued at a seller. Zog to Gemara weiter. Pirashti min habakar ve'eno yodeya ma pirashi yavi par ve'egel. Frek Gemara amai ve'leisi par mimanavshach. It's a suffix between a par and an egel. Bechlal masayimana. A par is an egel that's even bigger. So why would you have to bring an egel as well? Zok Gemara, it must be that the ratio of our Mishnah, Hamani Rebbe, the Yomar Kotan, Vevi Godolo Yotza. If someone said egel, he won't be yotza with a par, even though a par is so much more than an egel. Frank Gemara, if the stama of our Mishnah is going to go to Rebbe, well, then the second half of the Mishnah is going to be troublesome. I Rebbe e Mesefa. Shor b'mana, v'hevi shnayim b'mana lo yotza. V'afilu zeh b'mana chasr dinner, v'zeh b'mana chasr dinner, that's not what the kash is from. Shachar vevi loven vevi shachar, gadol vevi cotton, lo yotza. But cotton vevi gadol, that's mamish the case. He said an animal, he might have said egel, and he gave a par. Cotton vevi gadol yotza. So the earlier part of the Mishnah says cotton vevi gadol lo yotza. Because if you're not sure if you meant par or egel, you have to give a par and an egel. You can't just give a par. Yet over here it says, the Rabban, the Tanakama holds that cotton vevi gadol is yotza. So I was in the ratio. If you're not sure if you meant par or egel, you should be able to give a par by itself. And it's Rebbe Omer lo yotza. Zok to Gemara ratio v'sefer Rebbe. Are you saying the ratio of the Mishnah and the last comment in the Mishnah is Rebbe u'mitziyasa Rabbanon, but the rest of the Mishnah is going according to Rabbanon? Zok to Gemara, that's exactly what I'm saying. Ratio v'sefer Rebbe mitziyasa Rabbanon. But if you read the Mishnah, it's not so bad, because v'hachik Amar davar zeh machlokes Rebbe b'Rabbanon. So if you read the Mishnah the way you would read it, so it shouldn't really sound like you're going back and forth. The way it would read is up on top, Pirashti min bakar ve'eni dem apirashi yavi par upar egel v'agol. Right. So why do you have to bring the par and the egel? Because you couldn't bring a par, and that would be good for an egel. Zok Mishnah, that halacha that we just told you, that's not a libet d'chul alma. That's totally in the machloikas tanoim, as we're going to see, because cotton vevi gadol yotza, Rebbe Omer lo yotza. So that we said earlier lo yotza is not a libet d'chul alma. It's only a libet Rebbe because the chachamim argue on it. So that's how we could massage the Mishnah so that it's not just going back and forth. It's clarifying the halacha that we quoted as stoma is going according to Rebbe. Zok Gemara weiter. Tanan Hasam, referencing back to a brisa that we once quoted, there were 13 pushkas in the Beis HaMikdash. 7 of them were labeled with specific items, and 6 of them were l'nedava. Now we learned last week that the shisha l'nedava means for people who had extras in their karbanos, so that extra was put into these pushkas, and from these pushkas, whenever the mizbech was idle, they would buy an oila, they would be makiv the oila on the mizbech, and the Mizbech would get the basar, but the Kohen benefited because they got the hides. So Shisha Nodava connected me. Why do they need 6 for? That's the question. Why do they need 6 for? Omar Chizkiya connected Shisha Bate Avos HaKoyanim Shektiknu Lem Chachamim Sheyei Shalom Zemzeh. Imagine you're the every time the Kohanim came, they were split up into 6 groups for the week. And on Shabbos, everybody worked together. But every day of the week, there was a different base of. Now imagine if on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, there's a lot of karbanis tzibur that are brought, and there was never a time where the Beis Hamikdash, where the Mizbech was idle. And then on Wednesday, it was a slow day. So the Kohanim who worked on Wednesday get all these free iris, yet the Kohanim that worked Sunday, Monday, Tuesday don't get any iris. They're going to be upset. They'll be angry. If it was one kupa, then they see a kupa that's packed with money. They're chomping at the bit, because when we're going to use this money, we're going to be able to get a lot of iris out of it. In the meantime, the money was sitting there in the kupa, and they didn't have access to 1 penny of it. But the guys on Wednesday, on Thursday, they're the guys who got all that. That's one pshat of Rashi. Rashi is something even more unsettling. Because what happens is when you put money in the pushka, you put Sunday, you put Monday, you put Tuesday. And whichever pushka you put it into, that went to that group of Kohanim no matter what. So the oiros from those karbanos, no matter when they're brought, no matter when they're distributed, because Tosha says they're all distributed anyway at the end of the week, they'll go to the Kohanim of that day. So this way I can't say you took mine or I took yours, because people who put in the money, they decided who they wanted. I'm assuming if I have a cousin, a Kohen, who's on Tuesday, I'll put it into bucket number 3. So therefore, I can't have tightness that you're taking from mine. But there was even another shot. What if Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, tons of people brought in their own carbon oilers, right? So the Kohanim would get those iris. So what's going to Khan that if you don't have the iris from Kate Mizbech, but you got a ton of iris from the people who brought? Kohanim said, no. That's our basel. They brought it our day. But this is all this we have to share. So they're getting it ready, and they'll say, that's ours. That's ours. So even that they didn't forget. So Dr. Gemara, in order to avoid such a thing, she shalom zeh. That's one svara why you had 6. But it means all the 6 were just any type of moisturous. It didn't matter which, when you put it into, it's all a matter of which kohanim from which day you wanted to get those iris. The Gemara is going to ask soon, why didn't all the other people who are arguing Chizkiah, selling Chizkiah, they're going to say because the Kohanim didn't fight like that. That wouldn't have been necessary. Rabbi Yochanan Omer, mitoich shenadav meruba, tiknu lem shayfers merubin. The problem was there was a lot of this extra cash, and if they would all put it into one big pushka, the money rubbing against each other would deteriorate the money, and it wouldn't be good for it. Keeping it in smaller quantities and smaller containers was good. So it was arbitrary. They just had 6 because they didn't want to have too many in one place. It's not at all just general moisturous, because moisturous, if you think about it, it doesn't matter what it's a moisturous of, it's extra money gets thrown into one pot. But Ziri says no, you have to separate it into categories. Keneged par, Rashi says if there was a par, helam, dover, shal tzibur brought, and before they had a chance to shecht it, it went missing. And then they took another par helam, dover, shal tzibur. Then the original par came back. The tzibur has this now par. What do? They wait till it gets a mum. They sell it, and that money goes l'onis d'dava. So connected par is 1, egel is 2, ayol is 3, keves is 4, gedi is 5, and seir is 6. For every type of carbon that would have been brought, they would have had a separate pushka for it, which is interesting. Why would you need a separate pushka? They're all going l'onis d'dava anyway. Why do we care what the source of the extra was? What we're going to buy with it is what should matter. That's another point that the Gemara is going to make, why people didn't like this pshat. The Rebbe, it's going according to Rebbe, because you can't use excess money from a small animal for a big animal. So you would have to buy the same type of animal. You would buy the same type of animal that this money replaced. Ubar Pada Amar, Keneged Aparim, va'elim. Um, so forget. So Rabbi Yochanan said whatever the animal was extra, that's how it has to be separated. But Father said it's connected par vile. So I said earlier, par is the par of Shal Tzibur. That's wrong. That's not in Rabbi Yochanan. That's in Barpada. Barpada says you have to have a separate one connected parim, which would be the par hel Shal Tzibur. The Alib would refer to Asham Gzelois and Asham Me'ilois. Sha'avdu, that they got lost, those will be brought from Elim. Kvasim Zok Rashi are referring to Asham Nazar and Asham Mitzayra. They're brought Kvasim, they're not Elim, they're younger animals. V'hamoisrais, other extras. I'm sorry, V'asirim are Sirei Chata Shal Tzibur, if they went missing, and Moisrais, Rashi says, Kalgoy Mishemakar Echad Mikol Elu. So any of the other karbanos that a carbon yochid is. So up until now, we were talking about specific karbanos, but if someone was makar of any other type of carbon and it was extra, that's what that money was for. Vehamo. Amo is, the halacha is, whenever you give from shkolim, you have to, whenever you give your machzah shekel, you always add a little bit to it to make sure you're giving at least a minimum, not undercutting them. So what if two people decide together to give a shekel, right? They give a full shekel. So the problem is that little extra, there's only one little extra in there. We need an extra little extra, because each one has to give an extra. So they would have to take a little bit of money and donate it. What do they do with that money? It didn't go into the pot with the shkolim, because that was considered extra. That also went Nidava. They bought an oilus Nidava with it, and that they put it into one of these pushkas. Zok to Gemara, Kulu, it's actually late, so we'll stop here. Tomorrow we're going to learn, we'll just chazer over these shitas, and the Gemara goes through why each one didn't want to say like the others. Okay, let's stop here. So I'll just the Kohanim didn't fight with each other, so that wouldn't be a reason to separate them into pushkas. It's not going to lead to a fight over the iris. Okay, we'll stop here. Based on the video that we saw from there are too many iris. So I have to show you a Geshmaka video from MDY about. We learned yesterday that one of the svaras that the Gemara said they could be arguing about. Rabbi says you have to have 60 menachos from 1 up to 60, and the Chum said 60 is enough. So one of the pshatim was, do you say there's a problem of chulun lazara, because you didn't make a t'nai and say whatever is not your neder is nadava, whatever is not my neder should be chulun. The question is, could you bring chulun lazara? Could you bring chulun lazara? So he had a very good video about that. So here, I'll put this on. He's walking into the Azar and security to catch him. Chulun lazara.
אתה הכנסת חולין לעזורה? בוודאי שאני מכניס חולין לעזורה. ומה איתכם? מתי אתם מצטרפים? אני לא יודע מה איתכם, אבל אני עם אנרגיות בשמיים. יום שישי הקרוב מגיע וחולין נכנס לנו לחיים, אנחנו מתחילים מסכת חדשה. איזה גשמק הולך להיות, איזה אנרגיות, חברים. זה הזמן להצטרף. מספיק עם התירוצים, מספיק עם הדחיות. יום שישי קבענו חולין עם כל הבום.
Was all right. I thought that was a very good chap.